Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are going on a seriously mind-bending journey. We're diving deep into physicist Michio Kaku's incredible insights, specifically drawing from his massive interview on the Diary of a CEO. We're going to travel all the way from the macro to the micro, from his quest for the theory of everything and the literal physics of reality, all the way down to the deep human psychology of avoiding life's biggest regrets. Let's get right into it.
To really set the scale for today, I want to launch right in with a quick cosmic quiz. Are we living in a simulation? Or are we just a tiny fragment of an 11-dimensional universe? Have you ever stopped to wonder if the reality you are experiencing right now is, well, the whole picture? Because the physics of our universe actually suggests that what we call reality might just be this highly filtered, incredibly small piece of a much grander puzzle.
And this quote brilliantly illustrates our starting point. Michio Kaku points out that we live in a partial fiction. He says it's just a teeny, incy-wincy fragment of reality, and physics completely backs this up. You see, our human senses didn't evolve to perceive the full spectrum of reality. We literally can't see ultraviolet light, infrared, or cosmic rays. Our brains basically evolved to show us only what we need for survival, alerting us to a rustling bush so we can run from a tiger. It's a fantastic illusion built entirely to keep us alive, which completely blinds us to the true massive reality out there.
So if we are only seeing a tiny fraction of what's actually out there, here's your next question. What exactly is making up the vast, invisible bulk of our own Milky Way galaxy? Look, we know there's an immense amount of weight and mass out there that simply doesn't interact with light. We literally cannot see it with our limited human senses, or even our best standard telescopes.
The answer? Dark matter. And to really grasp this, we have to look at string theory. Kaku's life work has been trying to complete Einstein's dream of a theory of everything, basically trying to find a single one-inch equation to unify the forces of the universe. And the core idea here is that everything at the most fundamental level isn't made of little dots, but tiny vibrating strings. So, dark matter? It might literally just be a higher vibration, like a higher musical octave of those exact same strings that we just can't detect yet. It's like a grand cosmic symphony, and dark matter is just playing on a register we can't hear.
Section 1. The truth about aliens and UFOs.
So, with all this invisible matter and endlessly expanding space, what are the actual odds that we're sharing this universe with other intelligent beings? Well, with 100 billion stars in the Milky Way alone, Kaku calculates that the probability of life existing elsewhere is basically 100%. When you look up at the night sky, you're looking at a galaxy where a huge percentage of those stars have Earth-like planets. Statistically speaking, the math practically guarantees we are not alone. But, and this is a massive but, here is the catch. It would take our most powerful Saturn V rocket 70,000 years just to reach the closest star. 70,000. So traveling there with current technology in a single lifetime is just absolutely impossible. To actually cross that staggering distance, any visiting civilization would have to have mastered immense space warps, literally bending space itself to create shortcuts or wormholes. Which brings us to recent UAP sightings. If advanced crafts are actually visiting Earth, Michio Kaku is convinced they are completely robotic. Why? Well, just look at the observations. We're seeing military cameras capture crafts executing instant zigzag maneuvers or literally diving from 70,000 feet straight into the ocean. The G-forces involved there are so extreme, they would instantly crush any known organic biological structure. No living tissue could survive that. So the most scientifically sound conclusion is that these vessels are highly advanced machine intelligence, not living biological aliens. Section 2. The technological knife's edge. All right, let's bring it rapidly back to Earth, where humanity is currently sitting on what Kaku calls a technological knife's edge between total abundance and global collapse. We're building tools that start to mirror the power of those hypothetical advanced civilizations. Take computers, for example. Ordinary computers run on simple switches, transistors flipping between 0 and 1. But quantum computers, they compute using the atoms themselves. Because an atom can exist in an infinite number of states, the processing power is unimaginable. In fact, it's so powerful that the CIA actively fears quantum computers will soon break all modern digital codes, directly threatening global banking systems and things like Bitcoin. And as computers reach this godlike power, we face huge philosophical crises, like Nick Bostrom's simulation theory, the idea that we might already be trapped in a digital puppet show. Now, Kaku pushes back on this, arguing our universe is based on true quantum probability, not a digital script. But he does warn about a very physical threat: artificial intelligence. He notes that as soon as AI robots reach the intelligence of, say, a monkey, we could be looking at a civil war with machines. To avoid that, humanity might eventually have to physically merge with robotic technology just to survive and become superhuman. And it's not just tech. Biology is also on this knife's edge. Scientists are tantalizingly close to solving mortality by looking at telomeres. These are basically biological clocks at the ends of our chromosomes that get shorter every time our cells reproduce, which is what makes us age. We've actually found the enzyme, telomerase, that can stop this clock. The massive, terrifying paradox, though, cancer cells use this exact same mechanism to achieve their own immortality. So we have to figure out how to stop the aging clock without triggering cancer. It is the next great frontier for humanity.
Section 3. The Time Machine Brain.
Let's zoom in a bit from the future of tech and biology to look at the very tool we use to perceive reality, the human brain. Think about this. What unique feature actually separates human consciousness from the rest of the animal kingdom? I mean, animals live purely in the present moment, right? They're completely focused on basic survival. If you ask a dog what it plans to do tomorrow, you get a blank stare. They want their dinner and they want it now. So what makes our experience so fundamentally different?
Well, the answer is the cerebral cortex. The front part of our brain is literally a biological time machine. Because humans don't have fangs or claws or super speed to easily survive the present moment, our entire evolutionary strategy relies on simulating the future. We obsessively plan for tomorrow to ensure our survival today. But the downside of being neurologically programmed to constantly ask, what happens next, is that we are also hardwired to constantly worry about it.
Section 4. Creating meaning, avoiding regret.
So if our brains are quite literally wired to obsess over the future, how do we make sure we don't end up regretting it when that future finally arrives? Over an entire 80-plus year lifetime, what is the single most important factor that makes all this survival and forward planning actually worthwhile? Is it wealth? Fame? Mastering quantum physics?
We actually have definitive data on this. A famous 80-year longitudinal study by Harvard researchers proved that it's not money and it's not fame. It is close interpersonal relationships that keep us fulfilled. Tracking hundreds of people over 8 decades revealed this incredibly stark truth. Loneliness is literally a killer. It's as lethal as smoking or alcoholism. Despite all the amazing bells and whistles of our modern high-tech society, human connection is the one thing that gives our lifespans actual value.
Look closely at these 5 common regrets. Not nurturing relationships, not expanding your environment, ignoring your physical health, not taking big career risks, and failing to express your true creative voice. By actively avoiding these things today, you are communicating with your future self. When you prioritize your health or take that scary career leap, you're preventing the deep sorrow of an unlived life. You are literally using that time machine brain of yours to consciously design a reality you'll actually want to inhabit.
I absolutely love this perspective from Dr. Kaku. He says, I'm not even sure if the universe has a point, but my personal attitude is we create our own point. We create our own world and meaning. You know, his worldview was deeply shaped by his time in the US Army during the Vietnam War. Seeing the horrors of war up close taught him about the absolute extremes of goodness and evil in humanity. It showed him that the grand, string-vibrating universe doesn't hand us a pre-written objective purpose. We possess the profound power to create our own moral glue. We have to actively fight for what's right and synthesize our own meaning.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. If you had just 1 minute today to sit down and watch an 80-year highlight reel of your entire life, what would be missing? In this massive, wild, 11-dimensional universe, you are an incredibly rare conscious observer. So what blank spaces in your own highlight reel do you need to start filling right now? Don't wait. Use your time machine brain today so your future self has something absolutely incredible to look back on.